help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. And she just came out. She told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. And right now, you got a lot of opportunities to do that as Walgreens and CVS become the largest abortion providers in the United States of America. And that is the topic of today's very important podcast. Once again, thank you for joining us on the YouTube page. If you are a new watcher of this podcast, the traditional 40 Days for Life podcast listener still listens on their iPhone or audio only. You can certainly do that. But as we do the podcast, we'll have a lot of cool stuff to show you. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for 40 Days for Life. We've had a lot of stuff come out. We've gotten a lot of media coverage recently as well. And there's a lot going on now that for the first time ever, we will open up applications, not just in front of a Planned Parenthood referral center, not just in front of a abortion facility. Those are our first priorities. We have many of those covered. But now for those leaders not currently leading, they have the option to lead a campaign outside a CVS or Walgreens, because those two companies have invited us to do just that with their outrageous decision to distribute the very dangerous RU46 abortion pills. We will get into those, what they are, what they aren't. It's a little confusing, so we're going to clarify that. And we will also get down to why in the world CVS and Walgreens are doing this and what the ultimate response and outcome will be, in our opinion. So joining me on this very important podcast, somebody, it's late January. So for me, Steve, that means that in February, I try to make a point to golf. You know, it's before the campaign. My son Seamus loves to golf. He's better than me, which he's becoming self-aware of. He's been better than me since he was like 11 years old, but as he got older, he became self-aware, much like Skynet in Terminator 2. So as he became self-aware, he started talking trash. So we always try to go play golf in February, not just to say, hey, isn't it great that we don't live up north with Steve, but because it's awesome. It's like 65 degrees and sunny. And I would like to take this opportunity in public to invite you to that golf outing, Steve. And even though you don't golf, and I think you've been on a golf course once in your life, pretty confident you'll come down for it.
Absolutely. In fact, I did a little par 3 action with my dad and my brother back when we could still golf here, which was many, many months ago. And I would say just bad and not terrible. So I will take you up on that. You name a date, tell me when the green time is, and I will see you at the tees.
I'm guessing you can't golf in February.
No, you'd at least need some colored golf balls, because the white ones are going to blend in with all the snow that is still on the ground here in Wisconsin.
Well, as we exit January, Steve, we've had a lot of drama, and we've also gotten some positive feedback anyways, on this video podcast. We haven't been able to promote it a lot because we've had so much going on, but the downloads, not necessarily to the YouTube channel, but the downloads for the podcast in general are way up. And I think people are paying attention. The jury is in, Steve. Is this our 4th episode on video?
That's right. Number 4.
I'm starting to believe through the numbers, because we have a lot of audio downloads. People would rather hear us than see us.
Can you blame him? I don't know. Maybe it's me. This face is a face for radio, I've often been told. So I don't know that that's a compliment, but I'm going to take it as that people just really like our voices.
I wasn't going to blame you, but I guess suppose that's a possibility. Could be my fault. That's always on the table in anything. But if you're offering it, I guess I'll blame you. I don't think it's your looks. Here's what it is, Steve. I think people are still mad about the 1994 baseball strike, and they see all your baseball junk everywhere, and they're like, forget Carlin and forget MLB. And they start cursing all the horrible commissioners that baseball has had over the many years.
It's been 29 years. I hope that they'll be able to move on at some point.
Well, he's my cousin. He's my Greeny's cousin, but I have as you know, a wonderful Monsignor priest. He's 90, turns 90 years old this year, Monsignor Golosinski, and he still will not go into the Astros stadium. At first, I thought he was upset because they built the stadium next to his parish, but that wasn't it. He is still angry over the 1994 strike. So
most of the players today were not yet born at the time that strike took place. So I don't know. There've been a number of things that made me say I'm going to walk away from baseball, but
you're defending it.
Yeah.
You're defending it. That's great.
I've threatened to walk away a few times, but it lasts like a second, and then I'm like, I don't know, when do pitchers and catchers report? That's coming up too. That's my golfing day, is when pitchers and catchers report. So we're coming up. We're just a couple weeks away from that.
That wasn't the point of that, actually, Steve. The point is that this priest is probably the holiest person that I know, certainly who I'm related to. By far. So, but he is holy and a wonderful priest. And he was in Korea for a number of years. He speaks Korean. If he can hold a grudge over what you said, 29 years, and then I'm like, yeah, it's 29 years. And he's 90 years old. That means we get to do that when we're 90. We can be angry about something that happened 29 years ago, and everybody's like, isn't that great? That's hilarious. And now you're like petty, right? You got to get over it. But when you're 90, who cares?
Yeah, for sure. I know all of the bad personality traits that I'm going to have with me when I'm an elderly person, and I'm ready for it, and I hope my loved ones are ready for it.
Oh, by the grace of God, I'll know you when you're 85, 86. I'll be 87, 88. I hope I make it. We've put a lot of barbecue Mexican food through this body, but maybe we'll endure. My relatives all live forever. So Steve, why don't you share some of this amazing feedback that we've gotten?
Yeah, we got some great feedback, Sean. A couple weeks ago, we did the pro-life New Year's resolutions for 2023 here in the post-Roe world. We got a wonderful email from Althea in, her words, not mine, the very cold state of New Hampshire. She loved the resolutions, and she wanted to share some of the resolutions that she has completed so far. She is involved with New Hampshire Right to Life, and she's regularly posting content to educate people on abortion. She attended her state's March for Life this month. She's donating to pro-life organizations. She's participating in the 40 Days for Life campaign that's coming up and will in the fall as well. And because, Sean, because you told her to, she read the Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization Supreme Court decision. So,
whoa,
good job, Althea.
She's a rock star. She's done. It's not even February. She's done.
She's checking them off the list.
She's checking them off. Has she read What to Say When? That's
that is a good question. It doesn't say here. So if not, there's plenty of 2023 still to go.
Well, obviously, if she doesn't have the book, we're going to send her a free signed copy. So that can be the next thing. So thank you for writing in.
We got another one here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I want a quick thing. Your bucket list, it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, atheist. If you're ever in Manchester, New Hampshire, beautiful town, you have got to go into St. Mary's Cathedral. It is one of the most beautiful churches on the East Coast. It's in the side of the hills. We would say mountains, but I don't know if they're considered mountains. Absolutely gorgeous, overwhelming stained glass windows. I went in there before I visited a 40 Days for Life campaign, like in 2008. and anytime I'm in Manchester, I go there. So St. Mary's Cathedral, Manchester, New Hampshire, definitely worth stopping with your family if you're ever up there.
Good recommendation. We also have an email regarding an episode from before we were video podcasts. This is one of the last audio only episodes that we did, which was season 7, episode 51, our tribute to the great late Sue Thayer. We got an email from our friend Hannah. You might remember Hannah was a guest on the podcast a couple of months ago. She was open to and is open to life in her marriage as a result of a number of influences, one of them being the 40 Days for Life podcast, where we talk about contraception. We can link to that in the show notes. But she just wanted to write in and talk about how encouraged she was by the episode we covered on Sue, how she was saddened by the news of her passing, and that her words had such a direct impact on Hannah's life. Hannah says her legacy lives on in so many beautiful ways. So thank you for that tribute to her. And I feel like a little bit of a jerk making this segue here, but then Hannah has a PS that you'll remember our world famous Thanksgiving episode of the 40 Days for Life podcast. I challenge the listeners, if anybody was brave enough and bold enough and enough of a visionary to forego turkey and have something better, to write in. And Hannah said, P.S., we had steaks on Thanksgiving. They were amazing. 0 regrets. Way to go, Hannah.
Yeah. Wow. 0 regrets. Okay, Hannah. Sue loved the Thanksgiving episodes as well. So she would appreciate that. Okay. Thank you for your wonderful comments on the Sue Thayer podcast. Steve, you did a great job, by the way. The listeners should know of assembling all of her quotes and everything. But go back and listen to that if you want to be edified. We did it on the 1-year anniversary of Sue's death. But Hannah's dead wrong. I'm glad she's open to life. I'm glad she's having a baby. If she had a baby, it's a great story. We had her on the podcast. She's amazing. She's wrong on Thanksgiving. It is anti-American to eat anything but turkey and dressing on Thanksgiving. Let me back up. You have to have turkey and dressing. You can have steaks. You can have tamales. You could have a lasagna laid out. I'd probably, hit some of that. But you can't replace that with that. You don't get to say, I'm not having a Christmas tree. I'm having a pole like they did in Festivus with Festivus on Seinfeld. So that's why it's funny, because you're not supposed to do that. So yeah. However, if I'm not eating turkey and dressing on Thanksgiving, I'm probably doing a steak. We eat steaks every Christmas. That's what we do. We can grill them, Steve, because it's beautiful outside.
We don't stop grilling in wintertime.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Is it like a manly thing? Like, we don't care if it's cold.
Yeah, I know that my football team lost in pathetic fashion to close out the season, but our stadium is outdoors. Something should be done outdoors, even when it's cold, and that includes cooking.
Yeah, so Steve and I, we should put that picture of us at Lambeau up on the screen.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun one.
That's a great one. So Steve, you can correct me, but from what I remember, they were launching, or there was a new Catholic high school, a great Catholic high school in Green Bay. No, sorry, it was in Madison. And I went up and spoke at their event to help them raise money. And I went up there for free. I went and I saw you, Steve. And anyways, somebody got word that I was coming. And of course, I was a wretched Dallas Cowboy football fan. And so they gave us tickets to that game where the Cowboys played Green Bay, which happened to be the same time I was speaking that weekend. And we went to the game. That was 2015. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a blast. I loved it. You see the picture of Steve and I. Steve, I'm really, with the video podcast, it's a little shameful that you don't have the cheese head in the shot.
We will rectify that for next time, Sean.
You're still upset about the Packers season. Oh my gosh. Okay, enough of that. We got to get into this.
We had to have some fun because Walgreens and CVS are ruining the planet.
Man, they are ruining the planet. So let me just start by saying this is really bad. And I know that's an obvious statement, but it's really bad because you have to go to an abortion facility to get RU46. RU46 is not, our first point, emergency contraception, which is over the counter. And that was scandalous. And Steve, wasn't that scandalous when they made that over the counter? Emergency contraception.
Shocking.
Woo! Now they're doing RU486, which can kill a baby up to 10 weeks. We've gotten many reports that they do them up to 12 illegally in some places. Very dangerous. The whole thing's dangerous. But there's no comparison. I don't want to say something crazy, but to me, you have to go to an abortion facility to do this. Okay. Now, it's not like, there's 3 or 4 different places you could go to get it. Walgreens and CVS have 9,000 locations each. I mean, this is like every grocery store in America saying you can buy guns here now. And people that hate guns would obviously be outraged. People that love guns would even be like, okay, that's convenient, but that's a little weird. I don't know. I'm like going down the diaper aisle, or I'm getting my milk and, there's a Glock there in the glass case. It is so surprising that they are doing this. And I really mean that. I know we're not supposed to be surprised in a post-Roe America, but Steve, this is a dangerous drug. This is 2 pills. We're going to go into the details in a minute. The first one kills the baby. The second one causes contractions. So the woman passes the baby, often in a toilet, often in a bathroom, often in her room, sometimes at a movie theater, sometimes at a shopping mall, sometimes at prom. All those are true scenarios that I've heard personally. We've heard everything from so many women who have gone through this. And there really is no analogy. I use like the gun one, which is still kind of lame, but it's that, like, even people that support abortion are like, really?
Yeah, the gun analogy would have to be if they were selling guns that they knew would be used to murder a human being, I suppose.
Yeah.
That would maybe, and that's, you start getting into crazy town here. You're right, Sean, this is bad news. It's shocking. It makes me angry. A lot of times I talk with pro-lifers, I talk with our leaders, and we're all passionate people. And in many cases, my job is to kind of calm folks down. And I saw this news and I saw the statements, the lame statements from the corporate spokespersons. And it just made me angry. And I think we ought to be angry about it. We need to control that anger. But this is a case where anger is a just thing. Abortion, of course, these abortion pills are deadly. We've talked for years on this podcast about how there's no difference morally. There's no difference in the deadliness of a surgical abortion versus the chemical abortion. Sometimes people are reluctant to go out and pray, oh, they're only doing chemical abortions at this facility. A baby dies either way. A late-term abortion is maybe messier, but it's no different from an early-term abortion. It's no different from a baby that's killed by a pill. A human life that is unrepeatable, precious, made in the image and likeness of God, dies either way. And so this is serious business. So it hurts the babies, kills the babies, but it hurts the women too. There are studies out there that show that up to 1 in 5 women who have a pill-induced abortion have complications. Up to 15% will hemorrhage. Sean, I think this is probably a good moment. We just put it on one of your video blogs last week or so. But I think this is a moment where we ought to pause and viewer discretion advised. But nobody did a better job at depicting what a chemical abortion looks like than the film Unplanned.
I never saw the ultrasound image, but the nurse practitioner told me I was 8 weeks along, which made me eligible for a chemically induced abortion, better known as the RU486 abortion pill. The cutoff was 9 weeks. It seemed more private, less invasive, more natural. So I handed over $400 and took the first pill.
Tomorrow, whenever you're ready, you're gonna take the 4 pills in this little brown bag. That's misoprostol. It's gonna just gently empty out your uterus, and there's gonna be a little bleeding, but nothing more than like a heavy period. And if there's any cramping, you can take some ibuprofen. Okay, you're all set. Have a nice day.
The next day, I did as I was told. I ate a light lunch and took the pills inside my brown bag. I was told I would probably start bleeding in about an hour. In the meantime, I made myself comfortable in my bed. A little bit later, after 12 hours in agony, I fell asleep on the bathroom floor. It occurred to me that this was the way I was going to die. I wondered who would find me. I prayed it wouldn't be my mother.
We just saw that horrible footage. And do you know how many abortion doctors and Planned Parenthood representatives came out when Unplanned came out? Unplanned was in 1,200 movie theaters. Okay. Do you know how many came out and said, we would now like to refute and correct the medical inaccuracies of Unplanned, and then we're going to sue you for disparagement?
I
We're
bet
gonna
I can
sue you
count them
for
on
defamation.
0 hands.
Not one.
Yeah, not
Not
a
one.
single one.
Their philosophy was to ignore it, but there was no essay from Dr. Leroy Carhart and anybody else. The 5 medical inaccuracies of the
Yep.
abortions in Unplanned, not one, because they were accurate.
That is true. And that's why we see, if you have a chemical abortion, even versus a surgical abortion, we see women harmed all the time. The ambulance pulls up and takes a woman away from the abortion facility. We get reports of that constantly. And nevertheless, a woman who has a chemical abortion is 50% more likely to wind up in the ER in the days and weeks following a chemical abortion than a woman who has a surgical abortion. And here's what's interesting about that, Sean. I mean, it's interesting and it's tragic in and of itself. Abby, in real life and in the film, didn't go to the emergency room. So she wasn't even one of those cases that's on the most tragic end of the spectrum. She was in pain. She was suffering. She was thinking she was going to die. She was contemplating how her parents would find her after she died. And that wasn't even one of the cases that went to the emergency room like so many others do after they take that pill.
After, and I think one of the reasons they didn't refute it, one of the reasons it's not controversial, because everybody thinks about what's taking place. The first pill kills the baby, the second pill causes contractions, and they think that has to hurt. I mean, if you just explain it to somebody who's pro-choice, and you say, "Do you think this would hurt?" A woman who knows her own body is going to know it's probably going to hurt. And what do they report? At pain 1 to 10 and most of them report are 7 or 8.
And that's according to a pro-abortion, unrepentant abortion doctor himself. Dr. Daniel Grossman came up with that number, 7 or 8 on the 10 scale.
Yeah, that's what Grossman says. That's his name. So you can't write in and say we're picking on him. An abortionist named Grossman. Whew, that's appropriate. So this is the series of pills. And Steve, why don't you break down what the pills are? Because you don't have to memorize this. It gets really confusing because they sound a lot alike. But what you, the listener, need to know is it's a series of 2 pills. They almost always stop a heartbeat because the heart is beating, not cardiac activity. That's totally different. We've heard that BS. It's not a heartbeat. It's cardiac activity. Okay. So, but when you have a heartbeat at 6 weeks, most women don't find out they're pregnant until then. So Walgreens and CVS are stopping heartbeats. They are killing babies by stopping their beating hearts by distributing RU46. So Steve, break it down. What are these drugs?
The first pill is mifepristone, and that is the drug it's a progesterone inhibitor. So every woman's body during pregnancy cranks out all kinds of progesterone. It nourishes the uterine lining, which allows the baby to receive nourishment during pregnancy. And so the mifepristone tablet, that's breaks down the lining of the uterus and the baby dies. And then the second pill, sometimes it's a series of pills, but the second one is called misoprostol, and that expels the baby who has now been killed by that first pill, essentially induces delivery of that dead child. It's a brutal process, as we just saw. It's not a good process. A few years ago, at the urging of the abortion industry, the FDA changed the abortion pill regimen. That the first pill is expensive. The second pill is cheap. And so they kind of like, we're going to lower the dose of the first pill. We're going to crank up the dose of the second pill, not because of better outcomes for women per se, not because this was, safer or whatever. All the articles that I found said that this was done because it's a more efficient cost savings on how we handle this. So this is the dosage is fine-tuned to be as economically advantageous as possible. And this is what these women are doing. They're oftentimes taking the first pill at a doctor's office. Now it doesn't have to be there. A doctor's office, meaning like with a Planned Parenthood facility that has a medical advisor who's a doctor. Oftentimes there's no doctor there either, or maybe it's the webcam abortions or the mail order abortions. But now we've got it where you're going into the drive-through at the CVS, the drive-through at the Walgreens, and you're getting that first pill, and then 24 to 48 hours later, you take the second pill. So this is not even, as awful as a surgical abortion is, the immediate violence is done in oftentimes the matter of a few minutes. This is a long, drawn-out, violent experience that lasts for days.
And Abby Johnson and other Planned Parenthood workers, but Abby has said it a lot, and I didn't know this, obviously, till she converted, but she noticed internally that she was starting to have a change of heart because she was, after her experience that we just saw in the movie, she was encouraging women not to do RU46. When she was running a Planned Parenthood, she was talking them out of it and saying it's really hard. And she noticed, this is my job. I'm not supposed to talk them out of it. I'm supposed to talk them into it. And that's when it clicked, like maybe I'm on the wrong path here. But
she's not alone either. There's entire websites of pro-abortion activists who are kind of sifting and winnowing which abortionists are good because they don't do the abortion pill and which abortionists are bad because they will prescribe the abortion pill. That's pretty interesting. I don't think you see that in any in other industries. I don't think you've got, here's a website by the cardiology community saying you're a bad doctor if you prescribe this, drug that is now so commonplace. You find it in Walgreens and CVS.
And they make more money off of it because they don't have to pay the doctor, like a surgical abortion. So, which I'm sure is the motivation for CVS and Walgreens now that the FDA allows them to just, hand them out like Snickers, because the doctor's not administering it. It's just cash. It's a cash cow. And it sounds nice. I know we're like a pill popping society, but take 2 pills. You'll be at home. No one will know. I mean, even if your mom comes over, your grandma stops by, you just say, oh my gosh, I got the flu. I mean, it's so easy to hide. You can't hide if your grandma sees you walking into a Planned Parenthood on a Saturday. You can lie about why you're there, but that's much more explanation. It requires bigger explanation. This is, you have a stomach ache and just don't feel well. So the privacy of it is, this is like the devil. Everything they sell you about it is the worst thing about it. The privacy of it, you will see your baby pass. The psychological trauma of that, you don't see that in a surgical abortion. The trauma in a surgical abortion that we hear from countless women who have laid on the table and had an abortion is you see the blood and the parts going through the tubes into a canister. You can try to look away, but the ones who don't, they see everything come out through the tubes and it goes in, and they showed that in Unplanned. But on RU46 chemical abortion, you are seeing your baby pass. The baby is the problem. They can say that it's a clump of cells. Women don't believe that when they see their tiny little baby on their floor. And CVS and Walgreens could care less about that.
Planned Parenthood has marketed the abortion pills as being perhaps a preferable option to surgical abortion because it's more natural. It's more like a miscarriage. And as I always say, anybody who's experienced a miscarriage, what kind of marketing point is that? Are you guys insane?
Yes, they are. And that's why they say that. They're also disconnected. It's like a miscarriage, which of course is no big deal. No wonder they fired Leanna Wen for writing an essay saying that she was mourning her miscarried baby. Okay. They will see the baby. All right. This is what makes a 40 Days for Life outside of a Walgreens or CVS. We'll kind of do a little bit of, we'll get out of that topic that we just covered. This is where you can kind of have a little bit of fun. I mean, CVS and Walgreens are in very public places. Most abortion facilities are not. We get some, and you're like, oh man, it's at a busy intersection. It's got a huge public right of way. That's pretty much all CVS and Walgreens locations. And that's why we're offering, we're not telling anybody to do a 24-hour vigil. Most of these places are, some of them are in very dangerous areas. Some of them are very nice. It's kind of hit or miss. Some of them are dumps, and some of them are really nice. But when you have a lot of right away. But Steve, I just like the opportunity for sidewalk counseling, for praying, for holding signs. We're making new signs, talking about CVS doing abortions. I like this drive-through opportunity.
Yeah, it's very powerful. It's disturbing. I hate the idea of thinking that I'm in my car waiting to pick up a prescription for penicillin for my kid's ear infection, and the car ahead of me is picking up an abortion pill. I wouldn't like that. I'm going to change my pharmacy, frankly. That's a disturbing component of it, but it does offer a lot of opportunity. Walgreens, CVS, they know real estate. They're not just willy-nilly throwing a location here or there. They know where people are. They know what's convenient to get to. And so we've seen some abortion facilities where they're tucked away. Mine in Madison, Wisconsin, is kind of back residential neighborhood. If you're not passing through, you don't see us. You're going to get a lot of eyeballs and educate a lot of people out praying in front of a CVS or a Walgreens. Every single one of their locations, you definitely will. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see the reactions, because when someone sees you praying in front of a Planned Parenthood, they know what you're there for. It's obvious. You've got the sign, pray to end abortion. Okay, it's the pro-lifers. They're out there. I agree with them. I don't agree with them. I love them. I hate them, whatever. When you're out in front of a CVS or a Walgreens, most of America doesn't know about this, and Walgreens and CVS are counting on that. And so when you're out there and you're holding a sign exposing to your community that the corner pharmacy where they pick up their newspaper and they pick up their, I think you said, Sean, Snickers bar, and they pick up the birthday card because it's, gosh, Grandma Sally's birthday's tomorrow. I better get it in the mail so it arrives on time. They're going to stop it there.
People run in and buy ice. They're doing abortions.
Super Bowl coming up. Grab the chips. We forgot the chips. All of these things, for me, Walgreens is a pharmacy that we go to get our prescriptions. It's also I don't really want to drive 12 minutes to the grocery store when I can drive 4 minutes to Walgreens. I'll pay a couple bucks more and get those chips on Super Bowl Sunday. So you're going to have people coming for whatever it is they're coming for. It doesn't matter. And they're going to see what they're signed, and their reaction is going to be, oh, is this true? What are you guys doing out here? They're abortions at CVS? That's going to be the reaction. That's a powerful community outreach opportunity where people are going to realize, and they're going to get upset. Maybe they'll come join you in prayer. Maybe they'll move their prescriptions. Maybe they'll complain to the manager. There's a whole cascading series of good things for us that can happen when there's somebody out drawing attention to Walgreens and CVS, which would really rather this kind of, be kept under the rug, kept quiet.
Yeah, in a minute we're going to cover their vulnerabilities and where they're weak, because we break this down since we're having campaigns there, and it's good news. So we'll get to that in a moment. But this is the question. It's just stupid to ask, but we have to ask it because I've done a ton of media interviews over this, and the question is, why are they doing this? Why are CVS and Walgreens getting into the abortion business? I don't know. I but they need to be asked. It asked multiple times. I guess the short answer is money.
Yeah, one can only speculate. I don't know. We've seen the woke corporate ideology coming out from the CEOs who are, we want you to get back to work and not have a baby and cost us productivity. So we'll fly you to wherever, California, and go get an abortion. Maybe it's the extension of that. But in this case, it's not just that virtue signaling. This is Walgreens and CVS have blood on their hands. This is direct. This isn't in theory anymore. This is, you guys are the ones responsible. You guys are involved in killing human beings. There's no matter of choice anymore. This is like, yes, give me the money and I'll give you this deadly pill that you can take. That's bad news. And it probably is money because, Sean, you know what? We've seen now almost 250 different abortion workers convert and leave their jobs in response to a 40 Days for Life campaign. And if you're in the abortion industry, help is not on the way. There are not doctors that want to do abortions. They're quitting, they're aging. We've seen abortion providers, the doctors who are now in their 70s and 80s, upper 80s at times, because there's no one to replace them. This is a huge problem for them. They've got the worst labor crunch of any market, I would say, because people don't want to do abortions. I was looking at some data, even in France, leftist France, where they're too liberal. We haven't even had a 40 Days for Life campaign there. They're only about a quarter of the doctors are willing to do abortions. And so this is kind of an end run around that. Just get the prescription, take it to Walgreens, and you don't need the doctor to have to be there to get blood on his hands. The doctor who, is looked at as the black sheep or the pariah of the medical community. This is nice and quiet for the woman at home, allegedly, and it's nice and quiet for the doctor who can prescribe right from the comfort of his own, family practice clinic, and it's nice and quiet for the CEO who can cash the checks at the end of the day. I think this is taking advantage of a lack of abortionists.
I do too. And I think the backlash has been big. What CVS and Walgreens are going to benefit from is people not knowing what in the world a chemical abortion is. They're just going to think it's like an Advil, or they're going to think it's emergency contraception. That's why we have to go out there. That's why we have to go to CVS and Walgreens, because it's not emergency contraception, which is an early abortion, but is different and viewed differently, and doesn't always cause an abortion. Obviously, it doesn't if you're not pregnant. This is direct, and I don't know why they're like, you're only getting RE46 if you know you're pregnant and you want to have an abortion, and it can go up to 10 weeks. And as I mentioned, it's stopping beating hearts of children. Definitely going to be part of our messaging. And by the way, the spring campaign starts on February the 22nd. If you want to apply to do a 40 Days for Life outside of a Walgreens or a CVS, we're taking those almost all the way up to the campaign.
40daysforlife.com/apply. We'll put it up on the screen there. Get signed up today.
Absolutely. One talking point everyone needs to have and take from this podcast, and that's why, Steve, I think you need to calm down with CVS. CVS, Steve, they care about life. They stopped selling tobacco.
That's nice.
So you can't get your cigarettes, Steve. I know you're a big smoker. You can't get your cigarettes at CVS, Steve. They're trying to protect you from yourself because cigarettes are harmful to life.
Yeah, I was reading an article written by the management of CVS themselves, which said, we looked at our tobacco sales and thought it didn't make sense for us to be contributing, in a health related business. It didn't make sense to contribute to a cause of preventable death like smoking is. So they pulled the cigarettes off their shelves, no tobacco products. Which is laudable. It's admirable. I don't like to see people smoke. I want them to stay healthy. But to then turn around and go and not just a cause of preventable death, but the leading cause of death on the planet, the leading cause of death in America is abortion. And now they're going to be cashing those checks on that blood money. It's complete hypocrisy.
Yes, it is. Okay. Where Walgreens and CVS are vulnerable.
The fun part.
This is the fun part because, hey, you sign up to work at Planned Parenthood, all right, you're going to have controversy. That's why all the workers say, I don't really like telling people where I work. It was weird. You see people in the grocery store. Oh, you're in scrubs. Or do you work at a nurse's office? Doctor's office? Orthodontist? Orthopedic? Abortion clinic. Real drag in the grocery store. But you work at CVS and Walgreens, there's nothing wrong with that. But now they do abortions, and they're the largest abortion chain in America. So the biggest is very different, obviously, when protesters, prayer warriors, whoever, people with bullhorns, when they show up at the tobacco companies, everybody knows why. When they show up at Planned Parenthood, when we show up at Planned Parenthood, everyone knows why. CVS and Walgreens, people are going to be like, what in the world is going on? I mean, you're going to educate some people if you bring a campaign there. And it is different. And that's why the people, the medical malpractice, not the medical malpractice, the conscience rights lawsuits and the issues they are going to have, their first weakness are the pharmacists and their staff.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal. I know numerous pharmacists who have left their jobs, been fired. Some of them had legal action related to their refusal to prescribe or dispense contraception. And, good for them. I'm glad about that. And we need more people who are willing to take a hard line and not engage in evil. But there's a lot of people there with, you can justify, I don't. At this point, you're handing a pill out the window that is going to be used to kill a human being. There's no doubt about it. That's the only purpose that this pill has. And now you've got to face the question of, can you live with yourself? Can you look yourself into the mirror? Can you tell your kids what to do with any moral authority? A lot of pharmacists are going to have to start to ask themselves that question. Maybe they're pro-life and they're going to not do it. Maybe they're on the fence or they're pro-choice. I'm thinking a woman should have a right to an abortion, but I'm not going to be the one to give it to her. I think a lot of people are going to have to face these questions, and a lot of them are going to determine, I don't want to do abortions. And so you're right, Sean, we're going to see lawsuits. CVS is already embroiled in a lawsuit with a pharmacist who was fired for not dispensing contraception. And we're going to see people leave. I've got a pharmacist friend who left and took a job at the pharmacy, a hospital for elderly people, so she wouldn't have to deal with any of these reproductive moral issues. There's already, my Walgreens is just 4 minutes away from my house. It's hardly ever open anymore because there's not enough people to work in my community. You're going to see a real squeeze on the manpower, the staffing at these pharmacies, because people just don't want to be part of debt.
Yeah, and there's two sides to that. Number one, there's they're just doing it, right? So they're now doing abortions. You work at CVS, Walgreens, and you're like, I'm out. Like, I have an issue with that, or my family told me I need to quit, whatever. But then you have the external pressure, the media, who's covered it, and it's like bad positive coverage. Some of the media is praising them for doing it, and it's like they probably don't want any attention. They just want to do it so that they can sell it. But
you can tell that, forgive me for interrupting, Sean, but you can tell that from these articles, because I haven't seen anywhere where the Walgreens spokesperson comes out and says, yes, as champions in women's health, we are proudly distributing it. The articles are all, the spokesperson for Walgreens confirmed that they would be distributing the pill when they complete their certification.
yeah, because we wouldn't know. A doctor writes a prescription and sends it to CVS. That's how it works. For privacy of, whatever, your blood pressure medication, whatever it is. So you don't know. Nobody knows how many blood pressure medications Walgreens fulfills every year. Sure, it's a lot, but you would never know. Like if they didn't, and I don't know why they announced it. If they just did it, the FDA approved this. Great. Contact the doctors and let them know we'll do this now, and that's it. But it's public, and so that some people will just quit, like I mentioned, and then others, when we show up, that's just a pain, and obviously we're not going to be able to cover all their locations. There's 18,000 of them, combined, but a little goes a long way when you're outside of a Walgreens or a CVS holding a sign that says, CVS equals abortion or whatever. We also have abortion pill reversal signs that we'll be using. Those are very powerful signs at making people think. And we'll have those options there. So it's really, I think they're really going to have high turnover as a result of this over time. And as you said,
that's the next
Steve,
person that's in danger, not in danger per se, but that's the next person who's got a headache on their hands. We talked about the pharmacists, but now you're like the night manager at Walgreens, and you already are short on staff, and now your pharmacist just walked out and sued you. That's not a good day at the office. You're going to have a lot of Walgreens employees saying, I'm not getting paid enough for this.
And it sucks. I mean, every time I hear about a Walgreens or a CVS, it's a shooting in the parking lot. I mean, it's a rough, they're often just rough, shady places, which is why they got a drive-through and why everybody goes to the drive-through. So if you're working there, it's already, so the pharmacy's in the back, and then you have like the manager, the general manager at the front, who handles all the inventory of the greeting cards and the candy and all the great snacks. Candy doesn't kill people; it's only tobacco, so they still sell that. So knock on wood, like we no longer sell Snickers, because of heart disease in America. Great. That guy who manages the front, the photo guy. That's miserable, Steve, to have a 40 Days for Life campaign outside your doors.
Or the 17-year-old who's like at the checkout counter and somebody goes up is like, why are you guys doing abortions? How's a 17-year-old going to be equipped to answer that question? That's a PR problem.
Really good point. It's a really good point. Why are y'all doing abortions? Where do you do the abortions? Well, we don't do abortions. There's somebody out there that said you do. Well, we give out pills that do them. What? They have that? It's going to be really bad. I think we're going to be able to drive away a lot of business at the locations where we're going to be at. Obviously our goal is that they stop it, that they take it back, that they see that it's not worth it. That would be obviously a huge victory. But it's possible. We're doing a lot of things behind the scenes to get them to not do this. But it's very much possible because they're on the defensive. And that's the difference, Steve, that we talked about. All these corporations virtue signal post-Roe, we stand with women. Great, whatever that means. Very transphobic. We stand with Planned Parenthood. Great, whatever that means. We're doing abortions now. That's different. Yeah. And Planned Parenthood had to applaud this, Steve. This is the like the Seinfeld part of the whole thing. They had to applaud it, even though it's gonna kill their business, kill Planned Parenthood's business. No pun intended. But because they're not competing. It's unbelievable. They're everywhere. Walgreens and CVS are huge, way bigger than Planned Parenthood. And now they're going to be distributing Planned Parenthood's biggest cash cow, which is RE46. And Planned Parenthood has to applaud them, because anything that expands abortion, they have to celebrate, because of this loony corner they've put themselves in, where it's like, and we have decided we will abort kindergartners. And Planned Parenthood's like, that is very noble. That's wonderful. Great.
Brave.
Brave. Yeah. Right.
Courageous.
It's like what Matt says, it's like, Matt's like, I like guns, but I don't want people carrying a bazooka around the park, right? There are limits to whatever. And Planned Parenthood has no limits whatsoever. And so they're even applauding, competition that could easily soak up the entire market.
I got a hypothetical for you, Sean. Let's say there's a 17-year-old girl. She's pregnant. She decides to get an abortion for all the reasons you mentioned earlier. I don't know if I can get in for a surgical abortion. My parents will find out. I'll get this abortion pill that I can take in the comfort of my own home. I'll tell mom and dad I'm not feeling well. It'll be great in a few days. And she becomes one of the dozens of women who is killed by this abortion pill. And God forbid her parents find her, and then they find the receipt for the abortion with the Walgreens trademark at the top of it. How's that going to play out for Walgreens? They're going to go to the press. They're going to go to the courts. There's going to be a lot of problems. I know, Sean, I think back in the early days when you were running the coalition, were running ads on television highlighting a woman who was killed by the abortion pill. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Holly Patterson, first one to die. In California, in San Francisco, her parents, who were pro-life at the time, we used her photo, and her parents didn't even know she was pregnant. She did exactly what you just said, Steve. She went off, she got these pills, she went home, she took them, and she died. There are regular deaths with RU46. You'll have goofballs who watch this and pull the stats, and they're like, there's only 48 women a year that die, or whatever it is. But it's not, that, Steve, is going to happen. That's going to happen. They're going to go to CVS. They're going to be 18, 19, 20 years old, 15 years old, who knows, die. What in the world happened? They evaluate, and they realize your daughter was having an abortion, and that killed her.
It's going to be a big problem. And if I had not had some of the experiences that I've had, trying to put the screws to the abortion industry and force them to reckon with the deadly business that they're doing, I don't know if I would have thought of it this way, but it would be easy to think about, okay, it's Walgreens, major corporation. They've got lawyers, they've got well-paid lawyers, they've got PR people. They know how to handle this sort of thing. And I don't know that that's true. And I think there's a very high chance that they never really thought about this all that much. Have they thought about the conscience issues? Have they thought about the liability issues? Have they thought about the staffing issues? Have they thought about what they do when that young woman dies and now it's on television? I don't think they've thought about that.
They haven't. And this goes back to my, if every grocery store started selling guns, like Kroger, Bass Pro Shop has it down. You're right. If you go in and you want to look at guns, and you buy guns, some are in the glass case, some are lined up, some are bolted down to the wall. There's no ammo near the weapons. How do you hand somebody a gun if they're considering buying it? Just endless safety precautions, because guns can be dangerous when misused. RU486 is deadly. That is the point of it. That's the point. Is to kill a baby. That's the point of RU46. They are dangerous drugs. CVS is getting into a shady, dangerous industry that is the abortion industry, and they don't know what they're doing. And we have people writing in saying they've done over-the-counter contraception for years. What's the big deal? You guys are idiots. It's different, and they're about to find that out. That's why the FDA hasn't allowed it up until now. But the FDA, like the rest of our stupid government, have lost their minds after Roe, and CVS and Walgreens are taking advantage of it. And it's not going to be pretty. This is a very dangerous process that is brutal and that is controversial. And It is. It's just like every Kroger saying, when people are checking out, we should have some pistols up there that they can pick out. And people, even people from the gun industry, are like, hey, like you gotta know how to sell guns. You gotta know how to store them safely. You gotta know how to do that. And they're like, we got a drive-through window. It's crazy. It's crazy. And the money is absolutely there. But our experience in the pro-life movement tells me they are overestimating that, just like everybody's overestimating how many of these women are going to travel 5 states to get an abortion as if they had stage 4 cancer. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen some, but it's not going to happen at the level that they're thinking of. And the word around the street, as you pointed out, Steve, with Dr. Grossman, the abortionist, the word around the street from the abortion industry themselves, and certainly from women who have gone through this, is avoid at all costs. It's awful. Mine was awful. We've heard it's awful. The abortion industry says all they do is get complaints about it. Dr. Grossman is saying it's 7 or 8 out of 10 for pain. He's an abortionist. He loves abortion. He does abortions. Nobody's saying this just takes CVS and Walgreens to a whole new level of compassionate care. I mean, we can never get them on the podcast, but there are, I'm sure, Steve, there are abortion doctors that are sitting here going, I really don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
CVS
And
Walgreens do this.
here's a little thing that I've been thinking about, Sean, which is we did a podcast last year about abortion activists who are pushing to make the abortion pill go over the counter. You can just go buy it over the counter with your toothpaste. And we're not at that level of craziness, though, at the rate things are going. I give it about 2 weeks before we hit that point. But in any case, they're looking to make it over the counter. You had abortion activists who were hoarding abortion pills for when they need them, as though ultimately everybody's going to need an abortion. So just stock up on pills now that Roe's overturned. So you've got a supply, you can have them, you can share them with your friends, you can give them out to trick-or-treaters at Halloween time, whatever the case might be.
We store like the canned tuna and the dry beans for hurricane season, and we got to get abortion pills and store them.
Same way they're handling it. And you had doctors, pro-abortion radical doctors, who were prescribing abortion pills to women who weren't pregnant for when they need them. Why do I bring all this up? First of all, you've got tremendous potential for abuse. This is not something we're making up here. That you can search online and you can find cases where, for all we talk about choice, the woman whose choice was life had her drink spiked with an abortion pill by her husband or a boyfriend. That has happened, so it's going to happen more. This is a bad problem. It's an abuse of women. You get these pills, they're proliferated, they're flying around everywhere. Who's going to put them in whose drink? You don't know. It could happen anytime, any place. It's a threat. The second thing I want to mention here is we talk about the flooding of the market with abortion pills that people are just hoarding and they're keeping a supply of them on hand. Seems to me like we've got a crisis in this country with drugs, prescription drugs that are just floating around. And in fact, Walgreens and CVS just in the last few months agreed to a massive settlement due to their contribution to the opioid crisis. They're handing out opioids left and right, prescription painkillers. And as a result, people are becoming addicted. And those two companies, each of them agreed to a $5 billion with a B dollar settlement with governments in states across the country because of the threat to public health that they were causing through their reckless distribution of opioids. I can say that right, for goodness sakes. I don't know, Sean.
$5 billion.
Yeah.
$5 billion for all their work in opioids. That is definitely a talking point. I want to go through that list real quick, Steve, before we wrap up.
There's a lot here.
This is where CVS and Walgreens are vulnerable. Number one, they're pharmacists. Number two, their staff, the other people. Because the pharmacists may be pro-abortion. Pharmacists, staff, protesters, bad publicity, which they're getting, liability, which somehow, who is general counsel at CVS? Liability. And then, of course, I'm going to add one on here, Steve, which is just mission drift.
Hmm.
I mean, they're now not like, and I know there's a lot of shady, they sell condoms, this, all that, but this is different. Now they're doing abortions, and they have distinguished themselves from all of their other competitions. I think my hope, this is silver lining, we've always gotten our prescription, our grocery store has always been our pharmacy. And I think a lot of people are like that, but that's probably wrong. They're not. CVS's and Walgreens are big businesses, so people use them. But I think it's easy to switch, Steve. It's easy to, it's not easy to switch your pharmacy. Sometimes it's a pain, but I'm saying there's a million opportunities. Like the people, when we just decided we can't drink Starbucks anymore because they're just so evil, that was like a personal decision for us. If you drink Starbucks, but we're avoiding Starbucks at all costs. If it's in the hotel, we'll have a Starbucks, like if that's the kind of coffee they serve at a conference, all that. But like, if I can avoid going to a Starbucks, I can, and I haven't been in years. But there's no other option. Starbucks coffee is awesome, and McDonald's is good, but in Panera Bread, they're not even close. But it's not like that with CVS. You can get your prescriptions. There's a billion pharmacies out there, all grocery stores. That's the easiest one. I think that it will help prevent the grocery stores from doing this. Maybe I'm being naive, but I think it's like, gosh, now if Walgreens and CVS, if their stock doubles and their profit margins skyrocket because they're selling all these abortion pills, but I just don't think the market's there because of human nature. Women do not want to go through a drive-through window. That's why we showed the scene from Unplanned. I mean, she has to go, they explain it. It's complicated. If you've listened to this podcast, it's complicated. And if you're the one taking it, you're going to want more of an explanation than something through a drive-through window. By the way, where you're like, can the guy behind me hear me? I mean, you're not picking up multivitamins. So I don't think that they're going to make the money they think that they'll make. I think it is a deterrent for other pharmacies because it's like, we don't want that mess on our hands. Like we're running a grocery store. And Kroger's a fairly liberal, woke company. I'm using them because they're a national brand that everybody knows. But, I don't think they're going to get into the abortion business. Maybe they will, God forbid, but highly doubt it. I think it'll be a deterrent, and I definitely think it's mission drift for CVS and Walgreens. So, Steve, what can the listener do?
Well, we've been talking about it throughout the podcast. Go to a 40 Days for Life vigil in front of your local CVS or your local Walgreens. 40daysforlife.com/apply. We will train you. We will give you signs that are specifically tailored toward being in front of a CVS or a Walgreens. All good things that are going to help you raise awareness. And they're not even just going to impact the CVS or the Walgreens. Your whole community is going to be driving by and seeing you and learning about the harms of abortion, learning about the harms of these abortion pills, learning about the hope in abortion pill reversal. All of these things they're going to become aware of. So do that. And Sean, we talked about switching pharmacies. I know not everybody can, but if you can, and don't just change pharmacies, but tell them why. I think about when we were fighting my alma mater, the University of Wisconsin, looking to put in.
And Steve, before you go into that,
yeah,
people know their pharmacists too. I mean, if your kid or somebody has regular medication, or you're taking care of your parents and you got to get them regular, the 2 or 3 people in the window, and that again, they are a weakness for Walgreens and CVS, but let them know in a kind way, the people that but also send an email to corporate, write a letter to corporate. Anyways, go ahead, Steve. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all good. I just think about some parallels I see here between when we were fighting my alma mater, the University of Wisconsin, which was trying to open up a late-term abortion facility on campus. And, how many people does it take to make something like that come into effect? Hundreds of department heads? No, there were 2 abortionists on the staff who were pushing this. And because the university was public, we got to read their internal correspondence. And the department heads were reaching out and saying, look, we're happy to go along with your little abortion plan here, but not at the expense of everything else we have going on at this university hospital. I think a similar thing comes into play here. I think you're going to see these general managers, the store managers, the night managers, the people who are the local management of a CVS or a Walgreens saying to corporate, like, look, I'm pro-choice or whatever, fine, but I can't keep pharmacists on my payroll. I can't keep customers coming in the door. I can't, cover my quotas for the bottom line. There's too much red ink on the balance profit loss statement. I think you're going to see a lot of that. So we've got to tell them, we've got to make it clear, if we're switching pharmacies, why are we doing it? That can go a long way. So do that.
There's one addition onto that. If you are out there and for some reason you own their stock, if you own Walgreens or own CVS, and you tell them why. That did have an impact on Netflix when they did all their stuff with the abortion ban in Georgia. I know I did a lot of radio interviews, and shareholders would call in and say, I bought my Netflix stock in 2008. I've made a lot of money, which they did. They did that in 2008. And I just sold it. I just went online and sold it and called them and told them why, and that's another option if you own shares.
Yeah, this is going to be a winnable fight, but it's going to be a fight. We've got to take it to them with education. We've got to take it to them by taking our prescriptions elsewhere. We've got to let them know, and we've got to be in it for the long haul. I think back to a few years ago, was it 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever that Target decided that they were going to start letting confused men into the women's restrooms and the women's, try on the clothes rooms, whatever, the fitting rooms. And, everybody was boycott. And that was great. And then a year or two later, I got to go to Target. You need anything? I thought that we were boycotting Target. I need some sunscreen. We got to stick with this and actually put our money where our mouth is here and support the companies that, at the very least, whatever they're doing, they're not killing babies in your city.
And I think this is easy. This is easy for me to say. I can't think of the last time I went into a CVS or a Walgreens.
Oh, no kidding.
I was traveling and I needed to get something. I forget what it was. It's been like 5 years. It was a CVS. I remember that, like 5 years ago. That was the last time. Because that's why it is some things people are like, boycott United Airlines. You can't go anywhere. Boycott Apple and Google. And, you're like, I'm not going to have a cell phone. How am I going to do my job? But this is doable because you can, on the biggest level, which is they're a pharmacy, and there's a bunch of pharmacies out there. And so definitely encourage you to switch your pharmacy and tell them why. Because it's just, they are now the largest abortion provider in the United States. They're 1 and 2. Planned Parenthood's 3.
Imagine if someone were to tell you that would be the case, say, a year ago. You'd be scratching your head. What? Are you crazy? What would have had to happen to make that the case? And here it is, 9,000 locations nationwide, each of them.
It's a great opportunity to lead. It's a great opportunity to participate. And again, first and foremost are the 40 Days for Life locations we already have set in front of abortion clinics, in front of Planned Parenthood referral centers that distribute RE46. And so we're adding this as a third layer, which is CVS and Walgreens. And so you can go to 40daysforlife.com/apply to apply to lead. You can also just go to our website, 40daysforlife.com, and look for locations. I think it's easier to go out to the Walgreens and CVS. Everybody drives about Planned Parenthood. They're like, oh, the people are out there, or I'm pro-choice, or I'm pro-life. Or it's so settled in most people's minds, but you're going to educate a lot of people that Walgreens and CVS do abortions. They do? I thought you needed a doctor. Not anymore. So they're doing them through these series of 2 pills that can kill a baby at 10 weeks. What? So it's a great opportunity to educate people, and it's a great opportunity to answer the call to heal our culture. I mean, our biggest pharmacies, Steve, are now distributing RE46. I remember when this garbage came out in the early 2000s, and it was gaining steam, and there were so many people that were like, I don't think that's going to last. I mean, this is like shady, and people were dying, and um, it is absolutely shameful what the FDA did. They're not looking out for us at all, and certainly horrible that CVS and Walgreens are taking them up on it, and they're going to distribute this. One last point, and I made this in the video. Go back and watch that video that I did when we announced this plan. What we do here, and we covered it a little bit, a lot of bleeding, a lot of follow-up. You go and you have a surgical abortion, there's no follow-up appointment. You're done. It's pretty much taken care of there. That's it. Be a little sore, take Advil, that's it. They send you on your way. All the abortion workers say constant phone calls with RU46, constant ER visits with RU46. So is the manager up that's in charge of, counting how many Dorito bags they sell? Is he going to answer the phone when the woman is bleeding and says, what in the world is this? I'm in a lot of pain. Is the pharmacist going to answer the phone and do that? They don't really do that. This is why there's no RU46 used to require a medical doctor. A pharmacist is not a medical doctor. Okay. They're not going to answer the phone. Are they going to talk to the janitor on the night shift when the woman's in the ER? She's going to call CVS's pharmacy and talk to the janitor. They have not thought this through. And I think it's going to be a mess. And it's going to be a mess for women. It is just absolutely a man's world.
You ever notice when we talk about these things, it's all women's rights, and whenever things go wrong, and they do all the time, it's the woman who pays the price. There's not a man who's going to suffer from this physically. There's not a man who's going to pay the price. The women are going to be the ones with that burden on their shoulders for short term and for long term.
No. Because the guys are going to be trying to sleep with the women, and they're going to say, I don't know, I'm worried about getting pregnant. Hey,
let's go to Walgreens.
Go to the drive-thru at Walgreens. What are you talking about?
Easy.
Oh, okay.
It's all good.
Bad men. Bad men. It's great. Bad men should buy stock in CVS and Walgreens. They're helping them out a lot. So, okay. As we close out this heavy topic, I would like to mention something that we shamefully forgot, which is I want to thank Steve for sporting his awesome Buc-ee's travel mug. I like the 40 days.
I thought you were going with the hoodie here. Yeah,
you can get those at 40daysforlifegear.com. But God bless Bucky. And man, if they did prescriptions, there's no way they would do RU46.
Not a chance.
You could go to Bucky, Steve. This is on a positive note. Like if they had a pharmacy, you could get of course, if you eat at Bucky's every day, you're never going to need pills. They have the beaver nuggets. They have those sugar-covered almonds. Mercy. Those are amazing. Brisket sandwiches. That's just like all natural.
Marinate your heart medication in some barbecue sauce.
I got to eat something. Why? I got to take my cholesterol medicine. Give me that brisket taco. How are you going to swallow it? I don't know, drink some barbecue sauce. If Bucky had a pharmacy, they would definitely not do this, but you would go and get your cholesterol medicine, and then you could just walk over and get a brisket sandwich and just show that sort of diabolical nature of man.
Then walk out with a gas grill that you could then make your own brisket on when you go home. For those of you who are not in Texas, or I think there's a couple other states that have them.
There are now.
I don't know how to explain Buc-ee's to you other than to say, if you need something, they probably don't have it. But if you don't need it, they have tons of it.
That's great. And they manipulate you in a good way. Like a 20-pound bag of ice is like 79 cents. So you're like, and like a 44-ounce drink is like 99 cents. You're just like, oh my gosh, this place is cheap. Not so fast. That's how they get you. This is cheap. I got a bunch of ice. You bought a $7,200 smoker. It was an accident.
At the gas station.
At the gas station. They have turkey fryers. They have everything. Buc-ee's is awesome. Thank you for sporting your mug. And shame on Walgreens and CVS, and kudos to Bucky, Tale of Two Cities. So please rate, review, share this podcast. Be sure also to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are not already subscribed, we got a lot coming out. The YouTube channel has really taken off over the last year, as has the podcast. So thanks for all your wonderful feedback. If you have questions on any of this, if you have comments, if you just want to rant, we can be a listening ear. You can email podcast@40daysforlife.com, podcast@40daysforlife.com. And when you email in and you say something helpful or ask a good question or criticize us, you have a good chance of getting a free copy of What to Say When. So that's just how we roll. All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jill, our wonderful editor. And we will see y'all next time. God bless you.